The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Hello, everyone!
Yeah! Sorry, my voice came out.
I noticed.
I was very concerned for a second. I didn't know what was happening.
Oh, no need. Welcome back to another episode of Tokutalk, continuing our music and Toku series.
Yes!
With scores.
Yes! This time, I won't be talking about anything specific to a song or something with a song title. It's something that, does it fit the general ambiance of whatever is going on the screen?
What is the tone that this is setting?
Yeah.
How is this complementing the image that we are seeing on screen?
Yeah. I don't know what's happening to me. Kiva. I want to bring that up first.
Okay. I was gonna start with something else, but go ahead.
I want to talk about Kiva first.
Please
simply
do.
Because it was much more musically inclined in some cases. I mean,
our main character does play the violin.
Yes, and so does his dad. So I'm just like, that's something we can talk about. I love when a classical instrument is used as a backdrop to things. Because it sort of brings up, like, what's wrong? The classiness of the situation that we're in.
Class is the join up.
Yes. I'm not saying, that all classical woodwind, brass instruments and things like that do things.
Yes.
It's sort of, at least in my mind, associated with, we're going to bring up the class of the situation that we're in. I don't know what the saxophone is. All I know is I sound like an asshole.
So it's a little more upscale.
Yeah, let's go with that. I'm out of it right now. But yeah, I think that's the thing that really helped me, at least with Kiva. I wish it was more than just a violin. Like, I understand that's sort of the whole thing, but I'm saying here, like, is the only thing that he made violins? There were no cellos, no violas, no basses. So I'm just like,
I mean, you specialize in one thing.
I guess.
You do it well.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, they do all have different chambers in the way that they're built. But I don't know. I think it's because of the fact that I really like jazz.
As do I.
So I love a good
brass instrument.
Yeah, good brass or a good, like a finger plucked bass. Yeah. You.
Well, I'm going to go back in time a little bit further to one Akira Ifukube with the original Godzilla. And speaking of brass, that we talked about it in our Godzilla review, but that bum.
Oh yeah.
Bum. And the way that music, because Ifukube, he composed Godzilla movies up until one of his final composures, which was Versus Destoroyah in 1995, and then he retired. And just, you think about Godzilla and how iconic that character is, and how the main theme, in particular, throughout the years, has stuck around as well.
Yeah. And
I'm curious if the upcoming Netflix anime will use it as well.
Yeah, that is a thing that is happening. I am sort of interested in it. When does it start?
I'm not sure, but I'm somewhat interested in it as well.
Why does it feel like it's next month? As of recording this, we're still filming this in October.
Yeah, because it very well could be.
Yeah.
Netflix likes to drop things without really mentioning when. It's
true.
Like to shadow drop on us. But back to Godzilla. It's a little bit scary. The way that March goes, it's
foreboding.
It's foreboding. It feels very powerful.
Yeah.
But it's like the instruments almost, I don't want to say almost, they do. They convey to me this image of seeing this great beast off in the distance. And then, like, as it gets louder, it's almost like you can feel him coming closer.
Yeah.
And it's, to this day, like, as I said during the Godzilla review, when I saw Shin Godzilla in the theater and that music kicked on and the entire theater just started clapping and cheering because it's like hearing it coming out of theater speakers. I've got a really good sound bar, but hearing it coming out of theater speakers, whew! Oh boy, it's something else.
Yeah.
It's something else. So, yes, Godzilla, great score. And another one I would like to bring up. What?
Hibiki.
Hibiki is all about the music.
It's all about the score that we're getting out this. And I love Hibiki, the first half, as I've said many times before. But it's like the music in that show. It really fits the score or the tone. Even if it has like, especially with the secondary writer comes in because he has a trumpet.
Right.
His is much more jazz influenced. And he has a lot of like staccato beats because it's very sharp with the way that his tones end up working. So it's like he'll just play it and it's more like freestyle jazz where it's at least during his action scenes, his own solo ones, they're a very sharp, he has a sharp style of fighting because he's a gunner. So it's just like he plays in the beats of the gun. And I love that. I think his score, his own personal score, is my personal favorite. Simply because I just like brass instruments. But even with somebody who does the drums like Hibiki, I thought his was good as a chant or as like a driving force behind it because it's constant. And the more constant you get, it feels like you are really ramping up that tension that it has. It's great. It gets louder. It gets fortissimo. Yes, I am using a glossary on Wikipedia of musical terms, but I actually knew that one beforehand.
Yes.
It's just so grandiose, and I love it because of that. It's great. I love Hibiki's, but yeah, our secondary writer in that show, his just does it.
So let me ask you: is there any show or character throughout Toku, aside from Godzilla, I'll say, that when you think of that character or team, you instantly think of their music?
Decade.
Okay, elaborate.
When it's like he's about to have a badass moment, it's like that dun 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 dun. It's like, all right, I know exactly where this is going. This is about to get hype. I'm here for it. Let's go. And it just, I think, besides the opening, I think that's just one of my favorite, just because of he's about to henshin or something of that nature, or he's just about to do something really cool. It gives you a feeling of, okay, I know where this is about to go. I love that.
And that's a great example, I think, because a lot actually, of Toku, and I think this also extends to anime as well, a lot of the score just tends to fade into the background.
Yeah.
We have, and, there will be multiple, pieces written for the show, but a lot of times it's there and it's just kind of like white noise. Like, it's there, it's there, but it doesn't really grab your attention or steer your attention or enhance the moment in any way. Yeah,
unless it's like an instrumental version of like an opening.
Of the opening.
Or they have like a specific action song.
Like to turn that over, to this country for a bit, if you look at Power Rangers. Thinking about, like, can you think of a single piece of music from Power Rangers other than like the theme songs?
Go Green Ranger, go White Ranger, Tiger Power. A lot of the Ron Wasserman ones.
Okay, well, you can think of a lot more than me then.
A lot of the Ron Wasserman.
That's two whole more than I could think.
For him, it's just like he does those electric guitars, and there's just something about it that this is going to be hype. We are now in a hype moment. This is the journey that I'm taking you on, and I just love it when he does that. When they got rid of him for Lost Galaxy, a lot of the, not so much the inserts, but just like the songs that they ended up using, period, just weren't nearly as good because they were just more, we're going to be triumphant.
Yeah.
It didn't hold that oomph that the electric guitar really brought.
He was a man who really knew how to use the guitar in the score, because I think about, because I've got his IMDb pulled up here, and looking at the other stuff he composed a lot of like anime dubs, including Dragon Ball Z.
I can see that.
If you remember that, he did 53 episodes of Dragon Ball Z. X-Men, the animated series, he did the theme song.
That makes so much sense, actually.
That theme song that everyone is, super nostalgic for, except me, because I didn't watch that show as a kid, but
it was a very good show.
But I do know the song. But you think about him, and I think about, the transformation sequence in Mighty Morphin, and that guitar just wailing in the background before the actual, go-go starts coming on. And
Dun, 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 dun.
yeah, and that and just that, like, just like wailing on that solo, and it's great. And, very nostalgic, but also very appropriate for the times and very appropriate for the tone the show's going for.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones I feel like when you have some of those things that aren't necessarily associated with this is from this particular era, like a lot of we just did our Toku tier list for the Power Rangers opening a little while ago.
We did.
A lot of those ones really are stuck in that era of this is what was really popular in that era. But I feel like something, especially when it ends up coming to like something like rock, and you have that strong electric guitar, it's just this has a continued sense of awesome. It's just like...
What's the musical cue for that? Magical. Or Magnifico.
Magnifico is a more, Nope.
Grace Note.
I hate you so much.
Ottava.
I'll find it sooner.
Sign.
Shut up. I'll find it sooner.
Extreme Attack. Sforzando.
Oh, basso continuo. Continuous bass. Because that's what a lot of that has. It has like, all right, we really know what we're going to do here. That's why my voice is all super growly right now. But yeah, it's just like, it's a bass accompaniment played continuously throughout the piece. Which is what the MMPR theme was. Which is what Go Green Ranger Go was. What White Ranger Tiger Power is just like, that whole thing was just great. There's a continuous bass in that background that really gets you amped for what you're hearing. And they lost that a little bit. And it makes me sad.
Speaking of getting amped for what you're hearing, when it comes to me associating music and Toku, there's the one that really pops out to me is Gokaiger. And that is like over the opening narration, you've got that great, dun-dum, 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 and it's just this great, adventure music.
Yeah.
That, calls to, it brings to mind like Pirates of the Caribbean or the work of Eric Wolfgang Korngold that he did for the Seahawk. It's just that, that adventure music, just very uplifting, very, very much in the spirit of, the pirate movies of old.
Yeah.
Or even of new.
And it's just like, we end up having those things just like, I feel like bass as a whole is just one of those things where your ear is going to hear that more than anything else.
It's what you're going to feel more than anything else.
Because more often than not, it's going to be continuous throughout a song. Also continual. But it's layered under, so it ends up amplifying everything that's on top of it. One of the things I didn't talk about last time, like the opening of Ultraman, is that somebody told me after the fact that the song is sung by the same person who did the original One Punch Man opening.
Oh, really?
So I was thinking like, oh, that makes sense. That's why I love it. But that's one of those things where, and you could put the opening in the score. It is part of it. When you play it during an action scene, you know what is about to happen. Like something epic is about to happen. I love it more often than not when they don't use it that often. Kinga did this. It used it quite a bit, and I'm just like that. It loses its excitement because it's just expected. When I like it, Sentai does this more often than not, or really Rider does too, where they won't play the opening outside of somewhere near the end. Like they'll play it like a couple times near the end during an action.
Or they'll play a different version of it.
Yeah.
Because Gokaiger, to heighten some impactful emotional moments, they would play a piano version.
Yeah.
A slowed down piano version of the song.
Yeah.
To great effect, I thought.
Yeah. And I love it when they do that. However, there are also some times when a bad score can ruin a scene.
A bad score can ruin a scene, and a good score can also stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm going to turn my head to Ghost. Kamen Rider Ghost has some really good music.
The little that I got.
I didn't mention this in the review because I forgot, to be honest. But
there was so much else going on.
But in Kamen Rider Ghost, there's a piece of music that is reused throughout that reminds me of the original. That reminds me of the Ghost in the Shell theme. Like the choir.
Yeah.
That Aboriginal Ainu chant that they got going on. I might be wrong about that. I'm sorry if I am, but But that, like, choral arrangement that Ghost in the Shell used with those high notes and those long vowel sounds that are, you know, like effervescent and very, like, almost creepy, but they're also really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost did that quite a bit. And every time I heard that, it was like, oh, I like how this sounds.
Yeah.
Something interesting is about to happen. And then it didn't.
Or,
much to my dismay.
like I said, we don't like Wizard, but it has that orchestral version of it with those operatic singers in it. It sounds actually weirdly like a little bit Star Wars, but with a magical like bar behind it, really helping it along. So it sounds, what is that instrument? I don't know what instrument it is, but it really ended up helping that. I feel like the score for Wizard on the most whole was pretty good. Yeah. What is another one? Just give me an example. We haven't really talked about like any Sentai ones.
Well, I mentioned Gokaiger. That's the one that stands out to be the most. Aside from that, that's the thing about a lot of Toku scores. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of them, they don't really stand out.
Or they're just like straight up insert songs, like the Lupin X theme. So, you know, they end up having their own category that they end up fitting under. I feel like a lot more often for a score, it's more instrumental than.
Well,
like,
I mean, that's what makes a score, is it's
it's
the for any also to bring up the difference between a score and a soundtrack. The score is the music that has been written. This is the the sheet music that has been written for this piece of media, and then the soundtrack would be like an insert song. Yeah, those are the songs that are written.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you're just sitting here like, okay, does this amplify or detract from the scene that we're in? And especially when this is one of those things that I know, but I'm looking at it. It's like it sort of has to keep time, and time just doesn't have to be something in specific to the music. The time could also be set by the scene that we're in right now, and it's just like, does this musical selection keep time with the action or the drama or whatever have you is going on with what we're watching?
You mentioned that sometimes the action that is happening on screen is a little too subdued for what's going on with the music, because we'll have flailing butt rock going on in the background, and on the screen it'll be like an intense conversation, but it's still like two people it'll be like you and I talking at the volume we are now, just maybe a little bit more intense, and in the background
it's like, what we're talking about is not this intense. We're talking about raspberries. Bathe in his blood.
Bathe in his blood.
Yeah, it's just like you gotta do something. you gotta keep something that just is what we're doing right now. This is the question I feel like for a lot of people who actually end up doing scores, or who direct scores, or actually
composers,
make them, or like the composers that actually make them. It's just like, I sort of hope that they have an indication in some way of what the musical thing that they're doing right now is. What is this going to fit for? And I feel like I don't really know how it works in Toku, like what goes first, but I feel like in some cases you gotta do the scene first, or the scene at least has to be written, and the director has to have some idea about how they're going to do it, so the music can end up fitting it after the fact.
What will usually happen, because they shoot everything first, and then a lot of times because the music will be written later. Sometimes they will have, if they're putting a rough cut together, they'll put stock music in. They put or scratch music. They'll put that in, and the music is then written and composed later. Yeah.
It's like, you don't want to have to come up, and I love this term because it's one of my favorite things, but you don't want to vamp. I feel like you just don't want to vamp. You don't really want to improvise. You got to have a little bit of a indication of what you're going to be doing.
But again, depends on what you're doing, because you look at, not Toku, but still Japan, you look at Cowboy Bebop, that jazz score. Improvisation is what makes jazz. So
yeah,
I think it depends on what you're going, because
in that case, it's what style of music are you looking for?
Because if you're looking at something like Gokaiger, where we have this adventurous, flourishing, bombast, where we're trying to convey a sense of adventure, and we want everything to be you want it to be more precise. Yeah. Maybe if you, I think if they were to do... You look at something like Deca Ranger.
Yeah.
Deca Ranger, I think, would be a good place to vamp with the score.
I could say the same thing for Lupad as well. Because it fits with what they're doing. They're doing more jazz-inspired musical tracks. Or musical scores. So it just, it works for what we're having. Yeah, it really does end up depending on what is the type of music we're looking for. I feel like Hibiki did this quite a bit as well, especially when it ends up coming to Hibiki and Hibiki himself. Well, they probably had like an actual beat that they were going off of, or at least a tempo that they had to match. It's just like, especially for Hibiki, that trumpet, you can almost do anything that you want with that. Because of how his fighting style works, because of how his weapon works, and because of the actual instrument that he is personifying. It's a very interesting dichotomy that they have to sort of balance, so you don't end up having one thing overwhelming the other. You gotta have them be even. Yes. Égal. That's how you say it in French.
On that note.
I'm having fun. Oh, on that note. Let us know what you think about the score.
Words that we couldn't say.
Let us know what you think about scores. And how important are they to you for like any scene or anything that you watch? It doesn't have to be just Toku related. It can really just be anything. But how important do you think a score is to your enjoyment of something?
What's one of your favorites?
Yes. What is one of your favorite personal scores? Mine is actually Hibiki. Yeah. Yours?
Probably Godzilla.
Okay, yeah. Don't forget to join us all. We are just in it today. Don't forget to join us all the things.
Well, you're in it. You're dragging me down. Or I'm just the victim of my own self-destruction. Little column A, little column B.
Don't forget to join us on our new Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Tokucast. We'll be streaming things on there pretty frequently. Matt more so than maybe you or I. At least until I end up getting Memory of Heroes as of recording, hopefully this week.
Or Dragon Quest.
Yes.
Or Yakuza.
Yes, Yakuza. So
Yakuza like a Dragon Quest.
That is the only thing I care about. So yeah, don't forget to join us all the things, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.